here. Absolutely, absolutely. All of us are together. Does this work?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about
Hi, how are you? Oh, yes, nice to see you. Yeah. Nice to see you.
Everybody who wants to be a part of this celebration, well, it's not celebration. Okay. So we're going to get started. Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for coming. My name is Jessica Jonas, and I'm a campaign organizer with CoPIRG. We're a state-based public interest advocacy organization. With us today are Common Cause, Colorado Ethics Watch, Clean Slate Now, Food and Water Watch, 350 Colorado, Environment Colorado, Greenpeace, Move to Amend, Move On, Conservation Colorado, the Colorado Progressive Coalition, and did I miss anybody on my list? And CWA.
Cooperate Colorado.
And Cooperate Colorado. All right. Okay. So today marks 5 years since the Supreme Court handed down its ruling in Citizens United versus FEC, the infamous decision that birthed super PACs and opened the floodgates for special interest money in our elections. When the well-heated few can use money as a megaphone in our elections, the public interest and the issues that you and I care about get drowned out. That's why it doesn't matter on the issues that you work on. All of us are here today because when we work in the public interest, we've seen in the last 5 years, it's become harder and harder. So we're here today to call out the problem, assess the damage of Citizens United and other court decisions, and assess what's happened in their wake. But we're also here to talk about solutions, what we've accomplished over the last 5 years and what more we can do. First, the problem. In the last 5 years, we've seen the control of our elections shift in the hands of a few wealthy donors, drowning out the voices of average Americans. In fact, in 2012, the top 32 donors to super PACs, which gave an average of $9.9 million each, contributed just as much as 3.7 million small donors to both President Obama and Mitt Romney combined. But in Denver, we've come a long way in working on real solutions as projected in our movement's timeline behind our reps. We're no longer mourning the problem as we lay the coffin to rest. We've come a long way to implement these solutions here in Colorado, and there is more to be done. So let me turn things over first to Marty Amble, our Vice Chair of Move to Amend, and you're more than welcome to answer any questions after all of our speakers. Thanks.
Thanks, Jesse. As you noted in the past, when a misguided, out-of-touch Supreme Court has gone off the tracks, as it has with Citizens United, McCutcheon, and other similar money in politics and corporate personhood decisions dating back to the 1970s, we the people have responded 7 times by passing constitutional amendments to overturn the court. In 1957, the court said slaves and their dependents could never be citizens and were not protected by the Constitution. The 13th Amendment, ratified in 1865, overturned the court and abolished slavery. And the 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868, overturned the court and guaranteed equal protection under the law to all persons born and naturalized in the U.S., regardless of race or status. In 1875, the court disenfranchised women and said they did not have the right to vote. The 19th Amendment, ratified in 1920, overturned the court and granted women the right to vote. And in 1937, the court said that poll taxes were unconstitutional. The 24th Amendment, ratified in 1964, overturned the court. and said that poll taxes were in fact unconstitutional. Well, amending the Constitution is clearly the most challenging path. Move to amend, and others firmly believe that an amendment declaring that money is not speech and corporations are not people is the most critical element to overturn the court and returning our democracy to we the people. In Colorado in 2012, Amendment 65, spearheaded by Common Cause and others, was approved overwhelmingly by the voters. The amendment directed the Colorado Congressional Delegation to propose and support the constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United, and directed the Colorado General Assembly to ratify such an amendment. In Colorado, 6 communities have passed move to amend style resolutions. In Wisconsin in 2014, 28 communities passed similar resolutions. Across the country, over 600 resolutions have been passed, together with various others. 3 states have passed resolutions directing Congress to convene a constitutional convention to overturn Citizens United. Similar resolutions are under consideration in 11 other states. Hundreds of thousands of people have signed on to petitions demanding that Congress take action to overturn Citizens United and amend the Constitution. The movement is underway, well underway, and the train has left the station. With that, I will hand the podium over to Katie from Common Cause.
Good afternoon. I'm Katie Dahl, Associate Director with Colorado Common Cause. We support many of the strategies that are being talked about here today, so it's great to be here. Common Cause has a long history of working for open and accountable elections, including helping to pass Amendment 27, which put in place many of the campaign transparency laws we have now. Time and again, voters have said we want transparency in our elections and common sense limits on money in politics. That's why we joined with CoPIRG in 2012 to pass Amendment 65, calling for a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about how to keep the money transparent. One of the few things that the Citizens United decision left in place was transparency in campaign contributions and spending. The court told us that disclosure was needed so citizens could make informed decisions at the ballot box. But our own Secretary of State, Scott Gessler, tasked with upholding the campaign finance laws in statute and in the Constitution, launched a major attack on disclosure by using his rule-writing authority to change laws that Coloradans voted to approve. Colorado Ethics Watch and Colorado Common Cause sued Secretary Gessler to defend the will of the voters when they said loud and clear that they wanted to know who was spending money on our elections. In one win after another, from Denver District Court all the way to the Colorado Supreme Court, we were able to successfully defend transparency. It is particularly important to maintain at least the status quo as the amount of money in elections climbs higher every cycle. Thank you, Shaggy.
Yeah.
And it's not over. Citizens United came here to Colorado looking for ways to undermine our good transparency laws. Not content with unleashing a flood of money in politics that has resulted in lower trust in government and a public agenda skewed toward the wealthy, Citizens United is poking around to find the best places to stage a battle to have all political money in the dark. Now there is more we need to do. We should shine light on the dark money groups that hide donors to leave the rest of us wondering who it is trying to control the message in the mass media and influence the outcome of an election. And we need to make sure voters and the media have access to the information that is disclosed. Right now, you have to be a bit of an expert to find the information you're looking for. We should make it easier for not just the filers, but for Coloradans who voted for transparency. There is much we have done to defend disclosure over the last 5 years, and more fights are ahead. But we will also fight for proactive reforms to increase transparency and make campaign finance information accessible to every Coloradan.
Hello, I'm Rick Casey, a local activist in Lafayette, where I've worked with East Boulder County United and the Colorado Community Rights Network. I'm here today to talk about community rights and Citizens United. Community rights is an innovative legal strategy that towns, cities, and counties can use to defend themselves against corporate actions that are harmful to them. It is perhaps our best tool for restoring justice to our environment and our economy but has been so devastated by the impact of corporate influences on our legal, financial, and governmental systems. Community rights is not new. It is embedded in the beginnings of the United States as a country, and examples of it abound in our colonial history. Indeed, community rights are the very bedrock of democracy, but it has been dormant in our U.S. legal history for nearly 2 centuries. It is time to revive it. This legal strategy has been pioneered by CELDEF, the Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund. And since the 1990s, CELDEF has been reaching out to help other communities defend themselves against getting fracked, mined, factory farmed, or whatever by outside corporate interests who use the legal system to assert that their corporate rights matter more than community rights. To date, over 150 local ordinances and charter amendments in 11 U.S. states have been passed, and it is the beginning of a legal revolution. Inspired by these examples, in 2013, Lafayette, where I live, passed the Lafayette Community Rights Act, which banned oil and gas extraction within the city limits, gave rights to nature, and states that corporations are not people. We were sued within a month by the Connell Oil and Gas Association, who asserted that state law preempts our community's rights to local control over oil and gas development. And this assertion was later agreed to by a Boulder County District Court judge. But this fight is not over. Since the Lafayette City Council did not appeal that decision, a counter lawsuit has been filed by Lafayette citizens against the Colorado Oil and Gas Association, against the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission, and against the state of Colorado, whereas we assert that our state and federal constitutions guarantee the legal validity of home rule-based charter amendments. Community rights asserts this basic truth, that rights reside with the people, not in the state, not in the federal government, and much less not in the United States Supreme Court.
My name is Mark Merringer. I'm here on behalf of Clean Slate Now. We are going to talk about a different solution. Citizens United, from our perspective, added on to an already broken system. Fortunately, a report recently done by Colorado Public Interest Research Group and Damos found and illustrated the original broken system where the average senator has to raise $3,300 a day. The average member of the House has to raise $1,800 a day. Now, if you look at these faces back here on the very few of those people would even have a chance of doing that on the first day, much less every day of a 2-year term in Congress. So what that means is the type of candidates we get is not like the regular people. It's not representative of what we're supposed to have in democracy. It's not representative of the American populace. And on top of it, regardless of who the candidates are, it changes their perspective. It changes who they focus on in their efforts. And you may have seen news in the past about how a typical member from Congress for freshmen has to spend 30 or 40 hours a week on the phone raising money. Now, if not for the 6-figure salary, I don't think many of us would sign up for that. The other impact, unfortunately, is that the people, the voters, become disenchanted and disengaged with their political process. They feel like their vote doesn't matter, and they feel like getting involved in the process doesn't matter. Now, fortunately, there is a solution to that. It's called the Government by the People Act, which we recently endorsed as part of Clean Slate Now, and I know a lot of other groups as well. The idea is, instead of putting the emphasis, as Citizens United did, on big money groups, it is to shift the focus to small dollar donors, make it easier for them to do that, add a matching fund like we've had for the presidential campaigns and like they have in New York City, so that small dollars become much more valuable to candidates, and the emphasis then becomes on that aspect of that, and putting the emphasis back on regular people and everyone buying back their democracy instead of being sold out to the special interests.
I'm Ken Connell. I'm here today for Cooperate Colorado, and I'm speaking for Travis Nicholson of Represent Us, who's unable to be with us, but prepared the remarks that I have. Represent Us is a cross-partisan nonprofit organization that is building a movement to pass the American Anti-Corruption Act. This act aggressively attacks corruption, establishing laws against conflicts of interest in politics, candidate-donor collusion, and the political lobbyist revolving door. It also mandates citizen-funded elections, independent ethics enforcement, and better transparency of the political funding process.
It has 9 major provisions, and it's available for those who might want more detail. Rather than try to get the act passed by politicians who reap many of the benefits of our current political system, our corrupt political system, we are bypassing legislators using ballot questions in a city and state government environment. Tallahassee is among the first to have passed a local anti-corruption act. Represent Us is a young organization, and that huge victory in Tallahassee, Florida, has passed with 2/3 vote, not unlike Amendment 65 in Colorado, where the Anti-Corruption Act was adapted for local purposes. The Denver Metro chapter of Represent Us is also young, but we're growing quickly. We have built up a large chapter with many dedicated members. In the next several years, we plan to get anti-corruption acts onto the Colorado state ballot, as well as introduce acts in several Colorado cities. To that end, we are building a coalition of activists from the left and the right, thus cross-partisan, to help us draft and pass anti-corruption acts. We're also continuing to build our chapter, getting American signatures, Colorado signatures for petitions in favor of strong laws against corruption, and holding events to draw attention to this issue. Thank you.
Okay, so as big money gets bigger, politicians are forced to keep spending more time courting wealthy donors and million-dollar super PAC contributions rather than the donations from regular Americans. We just don't think that the size of your wallet should determine the volume of your voice in a democracy. And to reclaim our democracy, we're working on a new component of a campaign to show what the face of democracy really looks like, which is us. The true face of democracy is average Americans and what concerns them. Behind me is the first section of the Faces of Democracy wall, and it will continue to grow throughout the spring as the movement continues to grow. Standing 4 feet by 7 feet roughly, the wall is a compilation of pictures from Coloradans across Denver with messages about how big money in politics impacts them. The wall will be installed in places around Denver throughout the spring and will build the will among lawmakers to act. And to close us out is Laura. Avant.
Hi, I'm Laura Avant, Council Organizer for Metro Denver Move On. As you have heard, there are a lot of solutions to the problems of the undue influence of big money in our electoral system. The consequences that affect many issues and facets of our lives are dire when legislators are influenced by virtually unlimited campaign contributions and then feel pressure to pass laws that benefit their very wealthy supporters. Many of us have fought to change this system over the last 5 years. And here is the timeline of events that Denver has engaged in 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2014. This is number 5. Hopefully this will do it. All that time, we were mourning, but now we are ready to look at the fine new solutions that are out there. So the solutions that you've heard about today are a consequence of public awareness and resolve to return to the basic principles of democracy. As Marty has informed you, great progress has been made on the constitutional amendment strategy to the point where 2 resolutions calling for an amendment to overturn Citizens United were heard in Congress last year. Some of these solutions are also featured in the movie Pay to Play. It's a documentary that presents in story form the movement to address these issues. If you haven't seen it yet, there will be another showing on July 29th at 7 p.m. at the SIE Theater. January. No, this next week, January 20th.
We are looking ahead.
Yeah, we are really looking ahead. 2510 East Colfax. And Holly Mosier, the producer, is going to be there. So it should be really great. We want people to know that there is a movement they can join and that our success will only increase with each person who joins us. That's why we have created the Faces of Democracy wall, to provide a vehicle for people to state the issues that impact them, along with their desire to see money out and voters in. We're here for the long term, because that's what will be needed to bring us back from the brink of a corporate state and return the power back to ordinary people. Please stick around and talk with someone you haven't met yet. Get their stories because they've got them, and do your part to support the change we need by informing the public about all of these options and giving them the knowledge they need to join us. Thank you much for being here today.